kind of just staying in the moment. You have your test, whatever happens. You see it, and that's feedback. Nothing is confirmed. It's like, what can I do? I can just work as hard as I can now.
Ethan, welcome. It's a pleasure to sit down with you and have a chat with you about how everything is going and have a chat about your 12 and your journey to medicine, which is very, very exciting. And a big congratulations to start on getting accepted into Monash Medicine. To start off, I just want to hear, can you introduce yourself and tell me a bit about what's going on in your life?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. My name's Ethan. I'm a first-year medical student at Monash University. Graduated from Haileybury with a 99.4 and a 3,310 UCAT. Went okay.
Very, very well.
I guess right now I'm a UCAT tutor at Contour. As I said, doing uni as well. A lot of things going on, but it's
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. No, thanks for the introduction. And look, with your experience of going through to medicine and all that you had hoped it to be, just briefly, like how's it going? Like, are you enjoying it?
Oh yeah, it's really good fun. So just started back semester 2 a couple of days ago.
Awesome.
I don't know. It's just good to be back. Good to see everyone again. I don't know. I think the feeling just with med as you see them every day, it's very much like a tight knit group, and everyone's there together. It's just really fun. And just to be on campus again is also pretty fun. So it's going well. Semester 2, some more interesting content, anatomy, stuff like that. So I'm excited.
Great. And looking back on semester 1, what's the most exciting thing to come?
Oh, I reckon, I don't know. I really loved microbiology and immunology. So I'll, just actually learning about diseases. But then as we do a bit more anatomy dissections this semester, which gets started tomorrow, I've got one actually. So that'll be really exciting to do. I think that's what I'm most looking forward to.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about it. We won't get to talk about it now because we haven't done it yet, but looking forward to hearing about it soon. So if we were to take a step back a little bit and look at your year 12 journey. So year 12 is a big year, and regardless of how much pressure you felt was on your shoulders, of course, there's some expectation. You had some aspiration for medicine as well. So can you give me a broad overview of how you found year 12 and also some highlights throughout that time?
Yeah. Well, if I was to say year 12 was a breeze and easy, it'd just be a lie. It was hard. I think everyone finds it pretty difficult as well. There are a lot of highlights mixed in there. You have your formals, you have your people turning 18. You have I had a couple of music events that I was able to be a part of last year. And just a bunch of other stuff that I got involved in. I think that was probably the highlight, actually. I guess getting away from all the year 12 things and having those kind of breaks in there were the real highlights.
It's interesting that you don't remember the assessments and things, that you remember the fun events and everything in between.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, my first English sack was a highlight of the year, but, there's stuff you have to do and you make them, you enrich your time doing them and you make it better and you make your output better by having those highlights and having different things throughout the year to actually keep yourself occupied with. Yeah,
for sure. So zooming in a little bit on those, what actually did keep you occupied? You mentioned music was one of them. So was that an orchestra sense or was that sort of private music tuition? What instrument was that?
Yeah, so a bit of both. So on a weekly basis, I used to do my school orchestra, my school jazz band. I did a jazz combo like here and there because I was a percussionist. So it was just like wherever they wanted to put me and whatever I wanted to do, I guess I just became a part of. But then also on a solo level, I was able to perform in VCE top acts and top class last year at the recital center, which was, thank you. That was an insane experience. Met a lot of, good people, learned a lot of stuff about obviously music and performance and things like that. But those types of things, they were the things that were keeping me occupied alongside I played tennis as well. I was a school leader, which kind of took me out of school a bit, but kept me in school. I don't know. But mainly tennis and sport and stuff like that kept me away and just hang out with friends. So, yeah.
And what that leadership role you mentioned, what did that look like?
Yeah, so I was a house captain of my house last year. It was quite a hands-on role because you just organize everything to do with your house. So events, things with other houses, obviously the school events that you have to be a part of and compete in, organizing that and filling out teams and whatnot. So yeah, it was a very hands-on, like, personal thing. It took a fair bit of my time, but yeah, definitely super rewarding in the end. Yeah.
Excellent. I guess the reason I'm asking about these specific things and not jumping straight into your subjects is I'm trying to get a really holistic view of what your whole year 12 year looked like, because obviously there's going to be a lot of things going on. You got to balance a lot of different commitments. So along that vein, what did balancing those commitments look like? Were there times in the year that just felt just too overwhelming, or were there certain ways that you approached that year that you were able to manage all of those different commitments?
Yeah, well, I think it's all about planning and just looking at things logically. I used to be someone in year 11, I got super overwhelmed with my subjects. And it took me a couple SAC periods during year 11 to actually realize that, like, all this work and all the output that I can do is doable. It's just I have to put the planning into doing. You have to do a lot of thinking before you actually do. And the reason why is because you don't want to just do things for no reason. That's what wastes your time. That's what kind of takes it out of you. You don't get to do what you want to do, and you don't get to do the things that are going to actually help you score higher, because you're wasting time doing maybe things that aren't as important, or you're doing other things. So yeah,
makes sense. Absolutely. With year 11, you mentioned a few SACs that you did in that time. Was that a 3-4 subject that you took on in year 11, or was that just year 11 subjects?
Yeah, so I was able to do 2, 3, 4 subjects in year 11.
Okay.
One being music, which was a bit more chilled out, but still a fair bit of workload. Like, I had to come into school early, basically every day during term 3 or so. And then it was biology, which was the other one. That took a lot out of me. That helped me actually a lot, because biology is such a massive subject. It just helped me a lot in learning about how to tackle those massive topics, and how to go about that. So yeah, definitely a lot of learnings coming out of biology.
Yeah. Walking out of that subject, was the result what you would hope for?
No, nowhere near.
Nowhere near.
I came out of biology, and I really gave my all to it that year, like the amount of hours that I put into it. But I guess, the score wasn't what I wanted to, but, like, again, just the learning that I took out of it to make sure that in year 12, I don't make those same mistakes. And I was able to balance all the 3-4s and do them basically all at a higher level than I did biology at. So yeah, it was all right, but that's what the year 11 subject was. It was meant for me to learn and get better for year 12. Yeah.
All right. We will circle back to that discussion a little bit later, what those specific learnings were. But to talk about your subjects as a whole, so we've already spoken about music and biology. In year 12, what were the other subjects that you had?
Yeah, so in year 12, I did general maths methods, chemistry, and English. So the 4 subjects there. And yeah, I thought they were a good mix. I didn't do a language, that ended up dropping out. And there was a kind of swap and change with a couple subjects throughout year 10 to 12. Getting in, I was going to do physics and French. Okay. But I ended up swapping those for general and music there. So yeah.
Did you have a favorite of the bunch?
Oh, I mean, general was the 50. General was something I loved.
Okay.
Because I just loved just sitting down and just doing it was so straightforward for me. General, it was and not even in the content, just in the stuff you had to do. It's like, okay, learn the content, exercise, SAC preparation, SAC done.
Super systematic approach.
So systematic, yeah. There wasn't any guesswork to doing it. It was just really good. And my school was also really good in providing me with SACs and things like that. But in terms of, like, subject that I really loved, I don't know, I really loved chemistry. Maybe because of my class, it was a bit of a fun, jokish class. But yeah, I think in terms of enjoyability, chemistry. But in terms of, like, actually getting down and doing the work, general was just good. It was a nice, like, break from methods, chem, and English. So yeah,
I hear you. And walking away with a great score at the end, but as good as you can get, has got to be a good reward too. So great reflection on that subject. The question I want to ask is more along the vein of in year 10, which is I think middle of year 10 is about when you will be picking your subjects. What drew you to those 6 subjects? And you've spoken about changing from physics and French. What was the approach that you had, and what was the reasoning behind those subjects that you were choosing?
Yeah, so initially my approach to the subjects was, like, do your scaling subjects. which I still did. I ended up doing chemistry and methods. But that was my initial approach in year 10. I'm like, okay, well, I'm aiming for a really high ATAR here. Didn't really know that I wanted to get into med yet, but I knew I wanted to get a high ATAR, obviously, just to open opportunities, right? So ATAR, it was about the high scaling subjects. As I said before, French, which scales like 8 or so, physics, which scales 2 or 3, I think, I don't know, a small amount, and then chem and methods and things like that. That was my initial approach, but I think as year 10 went on, I found that there was just stuff that I enjoyed doing more. And I slowly figured out that, hey, coming into year 11 and year 12, I need subjects that are able to like kind of be my passion in a way, which is why I ended up choosing music, and subjects that were able to lighten the load for me. So I was able to maximize that subject. Even though the scaling might not have been a good, I trusted myself to maximize that subject. This was about general, and also give myself time to focus on other subjects. So that was kind of the reason why. So, it initially started as that kind of scaling approach that a lot of people take, but I soon found that you don't need subjects to be scaling. I got my methods and got my chem. I do everything else that I want to do, and ended up working all right for me because I actually ended up liking the subjects that I picked, and it was good. Right.
And naturally, you're going to gravitate towards those subjects in that you will put more effort in, and you'll feel like the work that you're doing is more enjoyable if you've selected that because you enjoy it. And I think one of the struggles that a lot of students will have is that either that they feel the need to choose a subject that scales really well and won't enjoy it, and maybe will drop it later on, or just it'll be such a slog throughout the whole time, or maybe that they're pushed into a subject, whether by school or by recommendation of their parents or someone else. And I suppose if you were to give some advice on that subject selection sort of front for those students who really aren't sure about where the balance falls between scaling and enjoyment as well, what would that piece of advice be?
Yeah, well, you have to think about it very, very pragmatically, in my opinion. As much as I would have loved to do French, learning a language, things like that, it's good. But through year 10, I gave it a try in year 10, and I could already find myself falling out of love with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're finding that you're falling out of love with something like a language or French, something like that in year 10, then that's going to compound to year 12. So you have to really stay on top of it. Are you doing it because your mates are in the class, or are you doing it because you actually want to do it? Because something we'll circle back to, and like a big piece of mine, is you do year 12 on your own. Like, it doesn't matter if your mates are in your class. It doesn't matter who says what. I think you need to kind of follow, and in those early stages, really check yourself. Is like, am I enjoying doing this subject, or am I just doing it because everyone else is doing it? Am I doing it because my parents want me to do it? There's a fine line, right? Like, no doubt methods wasn't my best thing to knock into on a Wednesday night, but I think there needs to be a balance between doing some of those subjects, but then there's some things that you just have to give yourself some leeway to do. And then again, it's thinking pragmatically in the way of, okay, how much reward am I going to get out for the effort put into this subject? And for me, it was a very quick decision to make, to go, okay, French or even physics, I'm going to put in a lot of effort to that subject, and I'm not sure how I can, yes, I feel like I could score high, but there's a big chance that I don't score as high as I want to. And that's a big risk that I didn't really want to take there. And so it's that kind of effort, risk versus reward factor, alongside not only the score, but the reward of being able to enjoy your year as well. You don't want to burn out completely. Yeah.
Totally agree. So, okay, so we've got our lineup of our subjects. We've got 2 in year 11 and 4 in year 12. And with those extracurricular activities in mind as well, we've got some music, we've got some sport, we've got some leadership opportunities as well. In terms of juggling all of those, did you feel that the addition of those extracurricular activities was complementing or inhibiting your success in the end?
Yeah, it was 100% complementing, without a doubt, complementing in every way possible. Like just the skills you learn from all those subjects, and then also, I mean, not all those subjects, all those extracurriculars and things like that. I was just so helpful. They, I don't know, they forced me to push myself harder, and I think that challenge and that feeling of, this is going to be difficult, that actually increased my intensity in a way. And then in another way, it just helped me refresh, right? Being able to just do something that is productive and I can still get a good amount of reward out of, but isn't just school. I think that was a really big thing, because with school, all you're doing is working, working, working. What's your reward? You get a score. Whereas with these extracurriculars, you're working, working, working. You get a different type of reward, and you get a reward that isn't just related to this ATAR, this score. And so with those things, it's not just about, you know, digging in after school and doing a bunch of tuition. No, it's digging in and doing other stuff that's going to reward you in other ways, because that's going to keep you refreshed. That's going to keep you ready to go. And then once you get that reward, you feel motivated to go, okay, let's get back to school. Let's knock this out. Yeah.
And how many lunchtimes did you have free in the week? That going on?
I was a big, I try to keep lunchtimes as free as I could. The only times I never miss lunch would be to kind of, to do any like music thing that I had to do. And that was like a Wednesday lunch. I had an ensemble at Wednesday lunch, but
Cool.
Other than that, lunchtimes were a big part of me in the day. I think balance was a big part in the day for me. And I think just a philosophy that I took through year 12 is that there is time to work and there is time to rest. And you need time to rest. No matter if you, like, I would sometimes feel, damn, I haven't done my homework for the period 7 and 8. And who would I look at? I wouldn't blame anyone else but me. It was like, I didn't work hard enough the night before. I'm like, this is my time now to rest. I got to give myself time. I'm not going to burn myself out here. Now, heading into SACs, obviously, if I had a SAC in period 7 and 8, SAC after school, then you give up your lunchtime there. But for the most part, it was really like maybe coming in before school. So studying on my own in the library before school. Spares were a big thing for me. But other than that, lunch was something I like to keep sacred in a way. I don't know, yeah. I like to keep pretty protected. But everything else, as you said, like there was using my time very efficiently elsewhere. I guess lunch isn't the best example for me, but like spares and stuff, they were used before school was used, all that type of stuff. Yeah.
Okay, I only asked. It was a bit of a stereotype that you know, people got to give up their lunch in year 12 for things, and it's good to see that you're keeping it sacred, as you said. Yeah, you actually jumped over quite a few really important points that I want to touch on. So the first one is balance. What is this balance that you achieve? How on earth do you achieve that balance in the midst of everything? I mean, it sounds just so simple, like, oh, just do your work when you do it, rest when you want to rest.
Yeah.
But how do you actually lay out that in year 12?
Well, it starts off with a very tough process. I didn't get the balance from term 1, year 11. I didn't get the balance in year 10. I really only got the balance towards, you know, term 2, term 3, year 12, which is when I really found I was working at my most efficient. And I'm like, yeah, I got my thing here. The most important thing to kind of achieve there is you need to understand, as kind of I said, like you need to have time to work and time to rest. And it is about being efficient when you work. It is about giving yourself time to rest. And there'll be a lot of times where you are failing. There'll be a lot of times where you didn't get the work done in the time given and you aren't resting as you need to and you're burning yourself out. That happens a lot. But I think you just need to keep pushing and keep finding that time. It's a constant learning process. And I think what a lot of students, and I mean, a lot of my friends, they try to implement a schedule. They're like, oh, this schedule doesn't work. I'm on it. You know, it's not about that. It's always a learning process. It's so individualized. When at the night do you like to study? For example, my sleep sometimes took a toll, but you know, I love to study from about 9:30 to about 11:30.
Okay.
And then after that, be lights out, go to sleep. That would be the prime time when I studied. And so that allowed me to kind of be like, okay, well, I'm going to study then, give myself time to rest before. And with the subjects that you like to do and then the things that you're, I guess, better at or more willing to kind of study harder, I think that's something. But I think in terms of balance, it's a trial and error process. It's a process that requires planning. It's a process that requires a knowledge of yourself and a constant kind of ability to maybe fail, maybe not get the homework done on time, maybe get the assignment and have to pull an all-nighter sometimes, but you will learn. And that's the only way that I learned, I guess, in terms of I'm learning those hard lessons and learning the way that I like to do work. Yeah.
100%. 100%. Look, the skill of a balance is, like you said, you don't get it until you've had a bunch of different trials and you failed again and again and again and again and again. And I suppose in a situation where you have set out that plan, where you go home and you go, I'm going to have my hours of rest and then I'll have my 9:30 till 11:30 and I'm to bed. How did you deal with the situation where it went off plan, when off script, some family commitment popped up, or maybe you were just absolutely trashed from one of the sports trainings or something? How did you deal with those times when the plan went away, and maybe you've got a sack upcoming, maybe you've got something else upcoming, and you have to kind of improvise.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, to like touch on the point before, like 9:30 to 11:30 wasn't just 2 hours every night. It was a bit more than that. There was a bit of study throughout, the day, and then even just when I got home. When the plan does go away, you need to be able to commit to that, and that's the importance of a schedule, of a plan, and making not even a schedule every day, but just finding your blocks of time where you can do things. Because when you allocate those blocks, you want to give yourself time for that. Okay, if something goes wrong, I do it here. If something goes wrong, this is when I can do it. And that would be based a lot around kind of my timetable as well. It's like, if something goes wrong on, for example, let's say Monday night, Tuesday morning, I had spares. So, okay, if something goes wrong on Monday night and I can't get it all done, I got Tuesday morning to do it. Similar thing on Wednesday period 3, 4, I had spares. So it was like something goes wrong on Tuesday night. I used to have Tuesday night orchestra. Sometimes it would go late. It'd be pretty tired that day. I had sport training at school as well.
You got that backup plan.
Yeah, and you got that backup plan to go, okay, well, I got these spares to do it in. So that's really important as well. But then I think the most important thing is the communication with your teachers, because your teachers are not these diabolical, tyrannical rulers that'll never listen to a single thing that you say. If you let them know early and you let them know that, hey, I can't hit this deadline for this bit of homework. Hey, I need a bit of help. Reach out to them. They're there to kind of, embrace and actually help you through these things. They're not there to kind of just absolutely just pummel you with a bunch of just, scold you and tell you, you need to do better. No, they're there to help you. So that's another thing in terms of communication with teachers. If you can't hit a deadline, if something goes wrong, you have a family commitment, you need to be able to tell your teachers. And that sort of communication also builds that relationship and rapport, which for me, if you want to get the most out of year 12, you got to build that with your teachers.
Yep. Definitely. I definitely agree with that. The rapport with the teachers is, for me as well, when I did year 12 a couple of years ago, was a really important part. And walking out of that, when you walk out of your English exam and you go and see your English teacher and you can have a conversation and have a really lively conversation, and even, whether the English exam went well or not, have a genuine reflection on how the year went and how that exam went as well is really exciting. And just having a friend as well, another person to talk to, is super great. And the honesty that comes with communicating, like you said, when things aren't necessarily going your way or when things pop up, is super important, because they are there to help. And that's really great advice. It is a skill to learn, though, to have that open communication. Yeah. So I'm really glad to hear that was a helpful part of your year 12 journey as well. If we were to move on a little bit and look into your actual, in that 2-hour block alongside the other study that you did, what study skills you employed, a broad look at year 12 in terms of SACs, in terms of practice exams, in terms of reading the textbook. Everyone's got a different approach and everyone's got a different recipe for success. So what was your recipe for success?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start off by telling you how I like to allocate resources. So the biggest thing for me in VCE was practice questions, practice exams. It is so much easier to learn with practice questions, whether it be from textbook, external sources. You don't need it to be VCAR 100% of the time, although that would be great. Mm-hmm. But actually having, an exam or a practice exam open up next to you, or for English, an exemplar essay open up next to you while you're writing maybe a practice paragraph down. You need a point of reference, and that's probably the biggest thing that helped me, because it's so easy to, as you said, maybe just read the textbook or write down some notes from the textbook. Well, that's cool, but the VCE have a very specific study design. They ask questions in a very specific way, and if you can predict those questions and get used to them, well, you're on your way to scoring really high.
And there's a very big difference, sorry to cut you off, but there's a very big difference between understanding and applying, and actually tailoring your responses to those questions as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's 100% right, because it's so much easier to, I guess, as you said, apply when you have the application right in front of you. When you're learning, talk about biology, CRISPR-Cas9, right? Yep. And you don't have a question for us in our study design. We didn't have too many because it was the new study design. But for people doing biology now, if you don't have stuff like CRISPR-Cas9 questions in front of you, a VCE exam, something like that in front of you, or just some practice questions, even from your textbook, it's so hard to do. So for me, the best way of learning is to learn with practice questions and to not be afraid of doing things open book. And as I said, before with like the plan and schedule, but even with those, just trial and error. Give it your go. Even if you think you're just waffling nothing and you have no idea what you're talking about, write down something, and then you make the mistake, you learn from that exemplar response. Because when you learn from that exemplar response, that answer response, you're learning the right way. You're not learning in a way that the textbook is taking you in some sort of paraphrased way that you write it. That's a good way of understanding and getting the content, don't get me wrong. But I think if you really want to master the content, you have to learn it with the exemplar responses, with the way the content is actually going to be applied. So for me, the most important things there with the way I like to do things was, for SACs, I'd love to just get into SACs and practice tests, open book, right? And just see how I went. My first protocol wouldn't be to kind of blurt down all the information. My first protocol would just be do a practice SAC and see where my, goals were. And then I'd go and maybe blurt down some information. Then I'd go, blurting, that's a kind of buzzword there. I'd go and, there's a bunch of different techniques. I'm sure we'll talk about it later. But then I go and, revise in on that specific bit of content that I'm missing. And then I go back to the practice exam or the practice SAC and I'd reflect and revise and do again, reflect, revise, do again, until I felt that I was okay. So basing my study around the application was the most important thing there. Yeah.
Certainly for a high achiever such as yourself, it seems that there is a tremendous amount of humility in throwing yourself into a sack and just, getting 50% or something. And it's a difficult spot to start because you want to go, oh, wait, I can get, I can get 85%, if I look at the answers when I'm starting off. But you have to start off at that point where you don't know the ropes yet. You've got to push yourself and throw yourself in the fire and just see how it goes, and then you can build from there. Particularly in the context of English, writing an essay, writing some ideas, and bringing that to your teacher and going, hey, I'm a bit lost, or hey, can I read an exemplar so I can kind of tailor those ideas a little bit more is awesome. So you mentioned blurting, and alongside those practice questions, in terms of actually learning the content, rehearsing the content, and then moving to apply that content in those questions, what sort of techniques did you use for your study?
So in terms of, blurting was, we won't start on blurting because blurting was a bit of a later type thing in my revision. So early on in my revision, or just in learning the content, I guess I just learned it like the basic way. You read through a PowerPoint, you might have some notes in front of you, you go through, or, my school was lucky enough to give me just these kind of note booklets or like PowerPoint booklets, basically, nice, where you just annotate the PowerPoints there with a few things, go over the practice questions that they give with those, pretty simple. And just out of that, from whatever I got, then I'd go in and take the dive into some practice questions myself. In terms of when I'd go back, then I'd go back and I'd realize, okay, what information am I missing? It'd be a simple fact of actually then writing out notes for them, and writing them nicely, not just kind of writing them, willy-nilly, making a nice mind map or a nice, I don't know if anyone's like it's like a table. I don't know what it's called. There's like this table where you have like all your topics in the left and I don't know, a bunch of notes in the right, and then you have
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's like some sort of table, and like you have like the summary notes at the bottom. Those are good things to make, just like quick summary. And I think the way I'd like to frame writing my notes is, if I was to make a cheat sheet, how much information can I just put onto that sheet in terms of buzzwords, things that I can kind of look back on. And so once I finish writing that, I look back on and be like, yep, I remember all that. Okay, awesome. So even though I need to be prompted by buzzwords, it's still like, okay, the content, the understanding comes back to me. So that's like the second part. Once I need to go back and revise something, that's something that I like to do. The third part would be to actually test myself, and that'd be to do with actually going to do practice questions, yes, or as I said before, blurting was a big thing of mine. Alongside blurting, which is a really good thing to do if you're time poor, because it takes about like 10 minutes to write out, okay, just write out a bunch of stuff about this chemistry topic. It's like, you do it, see where you got it wrong. Okay, cool. Revise that. But another way that I like to do it was to have, I guess, that cheat sheet in front of me and pretend I'm teaching it. Now, obviously, it's pretty fine for me now as a tutor, but like, going through year 12, and actually imagine yourself teaching the content to somebody. Talk to your wall, talk to your younger sibling, talk to your...
the best friend.
Yeah, exactly. The wall, the lamp is another one. Talk to your, your dog, your pet, whatever it is, and teach them the content. And because
or even someone else.
yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Even someone else, yeah, someone who might be doing, the 1-2 this year, and you're doing the 3-4 this year. That we do.
I know for a fact my parents learned some stuff from me throughout year 12 because I came home and I was like, oh, I learned this really cool thing from chemistry, and having the opportunity to explain it for 5 minutes helps you consolidate it too.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and that opportunity to explain it, because I think when you have the opportunity to explain it, you don't have the opportunity. You're forced to put things in a sequential level of ideas that make you understand it from square one, basically. So instead of going, oh, I have to, let's say completing the square in, methods 1-2 or method 3-4. I have to complete this square. I just do this set of processes. No, but why? And when you have to teach, you have to explain why. When you explain why, you actually learn what you're doing. For me, as a learner, it was much easier to learn with the why and the sequential order of ideas, starting from square one, the most basic principles of what you're doing, building that up to actually the final application or the final bit of knowledge there, than it is just to rote learn there. I think that, for me, caused a better understanding. And I know for a lot of people it's different, because I have a couple of friends who just love the flashcards, love rote learning. For me, myself, I love just the teaching way of it. And I love the kind of building it up from scratch, because I think if you are to teach something, you are to learn something.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that your study approach is humble, is having that approach where you are just willing to do poorly on the first thing, just have a crack and then work from there. And the second thing is, I think a really good word to describe what you've been talking about is dissatisfied. Is going, well, no, but why? I need to understand this further. I'm not just going to take it at face value. If someone gives me the answer, well, I want to know how I get there next time. And this is particularly true for methods, just to take one of the subjects is, well, when you get another question that is going to apply that same concept, well, it's going to be asked differently. It's going to have different numbers, different phrasing. Maybe it's going to be a style that you haven't seen before. Can you, because you understand the why, get back to where you were in the answer? And can you follow those same sequence, like the same steps, even though it's a different situation? And I think that does come back to those foundations that you're laying down early.
Yep. Yeah,
it certainly does. So look, these study habits, they don't show up overnight, and they're not, practice does make progress, makes perfect, or however you want to phrase it. So if we were to go back to your year 11 experience of biology and also music maybe less so with the study habits, but with biology specifically, how did your study habits differ in year 11 to year 12?
Yeah, well, year 11, it was very much like just writing down the notes. After you write down the notes, you do some practice sacks. After you do the practice sacks, you correct them. After you correct them, you go on to do your own sack. And it was that and repeating. And then maybe some practice questions from the textbook in between there as well. Watching some online videos. The way I like to think of it was a very passive way of just learning. It was just me getting a bunch of materials and completing them. And I had no reason. I didn't know why I was completing them. I was writing notes. I didn't know why I was writing notes. I didn't actually have an aim to get out of those notes. I was just kind of paraphrasing what the textbook was saying. From the practice sack, I wasn't aiming to, like, you had a thing to, okay, I'm trying to simulate here or what the sack's going to look like, learn some questions. But it just felt like I was just ticking off practice sacks for the sake of doing them. So I think in terms of year 11, and that's why, because it's, my first time and a lot of people's first time doing it 3-4, you don't have that direction. I think finding that direction very early is important. So try and figure out a reason and be, as you said before, dissatisfied. Why am I doing things? Why am I doing this practice sack? Why am I writing these notes down for 2 hours? Like, what's the point in me actually doing this? Like, is there a way of me making this more efficient? Is there a way of me, or is this the most efficient way of doing things? I'm actually getting a lot out of it. Don't just do things. Be aware of what you're doing and ask yourself questions as to why you're doing the things the way you are. I think that's how you develop direction. And so in comparison to year 11, year 12 had a lot more direction in things that I was doing. I knew what I was trying to achieve when doing maths exercises, basically repetitions. I knew, and then when I'm doing, SAC preps for maths, I knew what I was trying to achieve there. They weren't just me doing closed book tests. I'd like to do a lot of method SAC preps open book, with help with other people, with my teacher, because I'm learning what's going to be on the SAC and I need to learn that inside out. So that wasn't just about me getting repetitions, because you only get 1 or 2 SAC preps. So it was about me learning the SAC preps in as much detail as I can the first time and getting used to them. Because you don't it's not the same thing. It's not repetition. So it's like the different ways you can kind of look at things and learn things. I think that's what you want to try and achieve, and have that direction with having a purpose for everything that you do.
Yep, very flexible. That's awesome. And look, it does feel great to just write a really pretty page of notes and it mean nothing. Like, you get that short little bit of gratification. Oh, I wrote a cool page. It's got lots of colors and lots of images, but it might not actually help you. And getting through that boundary where you go, is this next half an hour writing this page of notes, is it going to help me? Well, maybe not. Maybe I need to actually put myself through the struggle of doing a SAC that I'm finding really, really hard, or that I haven't tried yet.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of borders on the last thing, which is that the studying is going to be challenging. Like, the learning is going to come from actually having a hard day. The passive learning of it being really easy isn't, you can tell me if it's different for you, but certainly in my experience is that when you do actually put yourself through that hard bit of study, when you are challenging your understanding, that's when you have the most growth. And the days when you come home and you're like, I feel like being passive, you don't walk away feeling like you've achieved much from that.
Yeah.
So, putting yourself through those hard hours of study and challenging yourself is absolutely going to be an important part of study. Before we move on, this all sounds like it's been study on your own. And I want to ask if there's any part of year 12 or year 11 as well that other people came into this. So other people doing your year 11 subjects, or just your friends as well in year 12. Did you have a study group? Were there times when you were studying with your friends, or were you more of a sort of lone wolfian?
Yeah. I like to study on my own naturally, but I like to ask questions and then to kind of have feedback and reference with friends. So, and I love to have them kind of, supporting and things like that, studying on my own. If I have a question, I can ask a friend. I can ask obviously a teacher as well, would be good.
Yeah.
But, I think, that's the big thing there, using your friends as support, using other people as supporting you. But as I said before, you are the one that are going through year 12. So every decision you make, everything that you do can't be affected by my friends. Like, if my friends were doing this practice sack on this day, doesn't mean that I'm doing it.
Yeah.
If my friends want to do that, doesn't mean that I'm doing it. I have my own process of going through things. And if I need help with the way that I'm going through things, I'll ask them. I'll seek to them for guidance, and especially other high scorers as well. You want to look to them for guidance, as well, which was a big thing of mine. Like, actually going to high scoring students and be like, you're really good. How do I, how'd you go about this sack, or how'd you revise, or what sacks do you do? What did you find to be more valuable? Like, this company or that company?
Can I have a read of your essay? Like, do you want to write one together or something? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the English one's a classic one. Like, the essays, it's like, can you send me your body paragraph here? Because I want to know. And I had a really close friend like that for year 12. Who did all the same text that I did. And she and I would just send essays to each other and almost mark them ourselves. And be like, oh, no, that's the way I'd look at it. But I actually really like the way you looked at it. I'm going to add that to mine.
I'll grab this phrase and sort of rework it. Or this idea is really good. Can we talk about this a bit?
Yeah, exactly. Or what do you think about, arguing this is what the author's saying? It's like, stuff like that can really help you. But at the end of the day, you do what you need to do. I think it's very easy to give into peer pressure. So you need to use your peers, you need to use your support network as something that's going to encourage you, not something that's going to force you to do something that you don't want to do, or know that you might not want to do. It's like, oh, we're doing practice sacks this afternoon. Come to the library with us. You're like, I haven't done notes yet. I haven't led the content. Like, I've had I did 2 sacks last week. I didn't pay attention to this subject at all. I got to catch up. And it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe don't do that and actually start, as we said before, that foundational learning first. And then you can go to your practice sacks, and then you can talk to them about it because they've done it and they've revised it and things like that. So you have to do things on your own accord, with your own motivation, with your own way of doing things. And it's going to be individualized to you, whichever way you like to do things first. So don't give into that. Instead, use your peers as something to somewhat lean on, get help from, use those high scorers in your cohort to learn from. But I think in terms of the way you do VCE, don't kind of give into peer pressure, I guess. Yeah.
So if I was to take the liberty of summarizing all of the great advice that you've given on studying, from what you said, your study habits were humble, they were dissatisfied, they were consistent, they were flexible, and most importantly, they were yours.
Yep.
And running your own race and not letting other people's influence affect those other 4 factors. That's just an awesome set of values for your study to walk away with as well. Maybe values is the wrong word, but a framework for your study to practice and rehearse as well. So moving on now, we've got this picture of year 12 where you have, you've got all these extracurricular activities, you've got these really refined study habits, but the unfortunate thing with studying is you do at times need to have some goal setting and also some motivation behind it as well. So I really want to zoom in on what mindset kind of looked like for you in year 12. The aspiration for you to go into medicine after school, when did that aspiration begin for you?
I'm not really, maybe start of year 12, but I never really thought that I was good enough to kind of make it there ever until not all the way up until I was like 2 days or a week before my UCAT. I'm like, I'm getting really good UCAT scores. We'll probably talk about that later, but like, I'm a chance here.
Yep.
But up until then, it was really about like, okay, well, I'd like to do this. I'd also like to open myself up to a lot of opportunities because you really don't know what a good ATAR can open you up to. Scholarships at universities, that takes a lot of weight off you,
yes.
Especially going into uni, having a scholarship, getting kind of that blow kind of eased a bit, I guess, if that's a word.
Yeah.
And then, just other things like just more courses open to you, your preferences, things like that. Like, understand ATAR at a certain extent, it's an end to a means. There's prizes, there's things like that. Those are little things that incentivize you from your scores. But hopefully the main bit of info or main bit of motivation, if you don't have a clear set goal, which is fine, barely anyone has, but your goal should be, okay, well, I don't know what I'm doing. And if I don't know what I'm doing, when I do know, I want to be able to have absolutely every avenue open up to me.
Open up those doors. Yeah, absolutely.
So that was kind of the main goal there. From going from year 10 to 12, no matter what I wanted to do, I'm just like, I'm not really sure up until maybe midway through year 12. I'm not really sure. I think I just got to open up as many doors as I can and just give it a go. Yeah.
Great advice. And look, that extends to anyone whether they want to do medicine or whether they want to pursue arts or even not go through university, just opening up as many doors as you can, having those conversations with people, putting in the effort, the little bit of pain that you have to go through in year 12 to have those better doors open later on. So with that goal setting in mind, regardless of how clear that picture of medicine was, and I want to come back to the imposter syndrome that you mentioned a little bit in a second, but how did you actually lay out your goal setting? How did you actually go, well, this is where I want to end up, or this is the things I'm going to put in place to end up there? If that picture's not clear, what's the way forward there?
I think it was really like, it's a tough one for me. I'm a competitive person naturally, and so I just loved. I just love to just. I don't know. Anything that I did, I wanted to be just naturally as well the best at. Not the best at anything, but like as good as I can be at that. Like if I'm gonna do anything, I'm gonna do it to the highest ability that I can do it to, until I can give no more. And that was something that was kind of just natural into me. But I think as well in terms of your goal setting and what I was looking for. So my goal heading into year 11, year 12 was hopefully aiming for, and this slowly increased again as I got more and more scores back. I'm like, oh wait, I can actually score higher. It started off as a 95 plus.
Okay.
And like we're talking about numbers specifically, but again, it was just such a vague thing. It was like, yeah, I want to score high, but then what my real thought was like, who am I? Like, I don't know how I'm going to perform in the next 2 years. I'm just going to try my absolute best every single day. And just keep going and then trusting the processes that I'm going to put into place. And obviously the processes didn't start from day one. It was trusting my just thing of trying and trying and trying and trying again, because you have 2 years to try. If you try on the first term and it doesn't work out for you, well, guess what? You got another 7 terms to go.
Try something new.
So try something new, and then try some more and give some more, try harder or not, and be more, there's so much opportunity to change. So I think that was my biggest thing in terms of going into it with an open mind, with the open doors, and then just being able to go, okay, well, I don't know how I'm going to study. That's fine. Let me learn. and let me learn from other people who have done so before, high scorers, people ahead of me, people in the grade above. And then two, being able to go, well, I'm just going to make the most out of each and every day. And I think that was a big thing that was very close to me. I don't know, someone kind of close to me. I think, my dad told me at the start, he just like says everything. He's like, oh, you got to focus on the process. And I used to play tennis a lot. I'm like, what do you mean focus on the process? And I was like, it was at that point in year 12, year 11, where I'm like, you just have to stay in the moment, focus on what you're doing at that moment and do it to the best of your capabilities. And then whatever happens. And so that was kind of
back in 3 weeks' time and go, oh, wait, that was a really good idea.
Yeah, exactly. Or the opposite of going, that didn't work out. Yeah. I absolutely bombed that sack. Okay, let me change things up.
Process.
Yeah. And so it's this constant kind of just staying in the moment. You have your test, whatever happens. You see it, that's feedback. You change it. Next time, stay in the moment. Question by question, mark by mark, lunch by lunch, whatever it is, practice sack by practice sack. You have to just take things one at a time and stay in that moment, stay mindful to what you're doing, because it's so easy to get carried away with everything. So that's kind of my thing. So keep your mind open and stay in the process, stay in the moment.
It's interesting that you said that you open that with, I'm a very competitive person, because what you've just described sounds more like you're competing with yourself than someone else.
Yeah.
So would you feel, I sort of already know the answer, but would you feel that your competition was more just beating yourself, or was it also influenced by other people as well?
To a certain extent, it was like, the work that other people were doing pushed me to do more work. But at the end of the day, it was like, my biggest enemy was VCAR. It was like me versus them. It was me versus the English paper. It was me versus the maths paper. It was me taking on a bunch of notes from, a textbook. That was the opposition there. And everyone else is like, an outside thing. And I understood that at the end of the day, I'm going to be ranked against them. But I can't really sabotage them. It's not me. I can't directly kind of compete with them. What I can compete with is the question presented to me on the page here. So I think changing your mindset from that, instead of looking at the race and everyone either running past you or you running in front of everyone, it's just either you beating or losing against the paper in front of you. And that's the way I like to look at it. It was me taking on VCAR and me taking on their papers.
Yeah. You sort of got this tunnel vision where you're just seeing what's in front of you. And then when you look around, well, maybe you're in front of everyone else, maybe you're in the middle of the pack, but you've run your own race.
Yep.
Absolutely. And yeah, with that mindset in focus, it's interesting to kind of approach all of your sacks without having the influence of other people's, like being really present. And particularly, I found this personally in year 11, when you're doing your 3-4, we sort of form this little bubble, this little group of year 11s in our year 12 class. I'm going to beat the year 12s. But inside that group of year 11s, whilst there is collaboration, there's also that little bit of kind of, what score did you get? Or like, what score did you get? And it's difficult to grow from that. I think from person to person, it will be easier to get out of that mindset, but it can be discouraging when, say you're like rank 3 or you're doing really, really well, and then you look across and, maybe someone did better than you, or vice versa. Maybe someone is disappointed by looking at you. So I think the advice of running your own race is excellent, because you can kind of ward out some of that outside noise and just focus on your habits. Absolutely. So it sounds like a perfect image of goal setting and study habits and everything, but what were the biggest challenges for you along the way with all of that goal setting, with all of that mindset calibration?
Yep. Well, yeah, I wasn't the most perfect studier from day one. I don't know. I guess Ramon, or someone that I talk to quite a lot, calls me one of the most studious people that he's met. And it's like true to an extent. My procrastination is not great. I procrastinate quite a lot. Even now in uni, I procrastinate. I'm already kind of a couple lectures behind. But
uni's got to be almost worse than year 12 sometimes.
Yeah,
the extra free time.
Yeah, it does. The extra free time, it doesn't. Yeah, you don't have that pressure on you. But yeah, I was a procrastinator. That was really hard, and then time was really difficult as well. Alongside the other things that I did, that I often enjoyed more. Going to play in an ensemble, going to play some tennis, hang out with friends. You enjoy that more, right? Than sitting down and doing methods exercise, 7A or something. But I think at a certain point for me, like it just had to kick in at a point. It was reminding me of why I'm doing things. We talked about motivations before, but I'd remind myself, okay, why am I doing something? You know, am I doing something to, we got to talk about it. Am I doing something to appease other people? That's a shallow motivation. In terms of, I'm talking about friends and stuff.
Yes.
Or are we doing it something a bit deeper? Are we doing it because it's something that we've always wanted to do, that we're aiming for? Is it something because we want to open up our opportunities? Is it something to do because, like getting back to those motivations, I think was the big thing for me that helps with that. But in terms of difficulties, it all has to do with time. You just wish you had more time and more opportunities to do everything. I think, those are the biggest challenges.
Were there moments along the way where you genuinely felt discouraged by one of your assessments and you took a hard hit and you went, oh, wow, like, wish I could do that one again? Did that factor into those challenges as well?
Yeah, it definitely did. I think it was my second biology SAC ever. My first one was really good. And my second one was not so good. And I fell out of that kind of top pack there with a lot of other year 11s after that. And it was like, you ask yourself all these questions. You ask yourself, am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? And I remember, again, talking to my parents about it. And they just looked at me with such this deadpan face. Like I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I'm good enough for this, guys. I'm not sure if I'm able to get this ATAR, whatever. And they looked at me, they're like, okay, what are you going to do about it? Well, like, yeah, good point. Like the sack was 2 weeks ago. Well, what can I do about it? Well, am I going to sit here and just, wallow in the things that I've done? Or am I going to actually go ahead and try and change that? Because the only thing you can do is try. And I think, that was like the big thing there. So, there were times where it hit, and it hit hard, and the outcome, the pressure of that outcome really does kind of weigh on you. But I think it's always comforting in a way that's like that outcome is almost out of your control. Like all you can do is sit there and try and study as hard as you can, and whatever outcome you get happens. There should be a level of comfort from that, because it's like you can only run your own race. You can't run anyone else's. You can't influence how your teacher's going to mark you. You can only focus on that. Makes it easy for you. Try your best at your studies. Try your best at your practice questions, all that type of stuff. Seek help. And that's the most you can do. So, while yes, it was tough at times and there were sacks that, got me feeling pretty crappy, it's like, I'd always just come back to that question, what am I going to do about it? Am I going to sit here and do nothing, or am I actually going to start to change things, or move on to the next sack, or move on to another subject that I'm going to be like, okay, let's make sure I get the most out of this one.
Great. What am I going to do about it? What a great question to be asking yourself. That reflection after an assessment comes back, whether it is good or not, reflection is important, both in the context of, okay, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? Or what did I do really well that I'm going to keep doing? And also how, how can I shift my mindset, or shift my approach, or shift who I speak to, or whatever. Just having that reflection is super duper powerful. And it's more than just learning for a SAC. It's learning who you are as a person, studying that, how you deal with disappointment as well. The thing I want to circle back to in the midst of all of these challenges is that imposter syndrome, that I'm not good enough, or that SAC, that idea of medicine's not there, or before you had that realization, like, oh wait, my UCAT scores are really good. How did you manage the imposter syndrome that came up in year 12? Or I suppose, what was the severity of it, and then how did you manage it?
Yeah, well, I definitely don't. It wasn't like a really big level of imposter syndrome. I knew I started UCAT prep quite early with Contour as well. I threw my hat in the ring. I'm like, okay, well, I've started early. Because I did a couple people started, 1 month out. I'm like, okay, if I start 7 months out, 8 months out, then who knows what I could achieve. So I'm like, okay, well, let's do this. And I'm like, okay, I know, like, okay, I might not be able to achieve it in the end. And I don't know if I am good enough. It was never a point of like, I'm not good enough. But it's just like, I just never knew that. Like, I just didn't know. Like, I didn't know how much that would take. And I think from that, it's like, okay, well, I don't know if I am good enough. I don't know how this year's going to go for me. But it always comes back to that question. And the biggest question that comes back to it was like, what am I going to do? Like, it's always like, okay, that's my thoughts. Cool. That's how I'm feeling. What am I going to do? And it came down to planning out quite a lot of my year. So thinking before my year, not just going in there willy-nilly, how am I going to prioritize my subjects? How am I going to go through things and where am I going to find the time, and how am I going to balance extracurriculars? And to an extent, extracurriculars did somewhat take a backseat. Like this, there was some compromise in there. And so, you know, a couple tennis trainings I didn't do, and I had to leave a couple ensembles, right? Happens, right? But I think in terms of that imposter syndrome, it was like the best way I can kind of deal with that was like, well, all right, don't feel like it's either, you know, for people that don't feel like they can do it, all right. For people who don't know that they can do it, all right. And if people think that they've already won it already, right, hasn't happened yet. You know, you haven't gotten that offer. The VTAC hasn't emailed you. Mono hasn't emailed you, or whatever uni you want to go to. They haven't emailed you to give you an offer yet. So nothing's confirmed. It's like, what can I do? I can just work as hard as I can now. And that's all I can do day by day. I think the more you kind of stick with that idea, it's those external noises of, am I good enough? That imposter syndrome, the competitiveness of everything else, that just gets away from it. So I think a lot of these answers, you know, coming to and coming back to reflecting on my year 12 journey, it was so much like I was able to stay in the moment. And if you are able to stay in the moment, it just helps. So just staying in like, okay, what am I going to do next and next and next? Not what happened, or you can look back and reflect, but it's like, okay, cool. What's going to happen now? And the more you ask yourself that question, you realize how many emotions and how many things that you're feeling are just not invalid, but they're just useless. They're pointless to your progress. So, coming back to the idea of imposter syndrome, it's like, okay, that's how I feel. Right, let's come to terms with it and do my next task that I have to do. And kind of not pushing it aside, but just acknowledging it and asking yourself, what am I going to do about it now? How am I going to change that?
Control those controllables. And that's got to include your attitude as well, beyond just tangibly, what am I going to change? How am I going to control my response to a bad result? How am I going to control my response to not getting in the 2 hours of study that I wanted to do? And attitude and controlling that response is super important. So that's excellent advice. I almost wish I could do year 12 again with that kind of attitude in mind. In amidst those challenges, you know, not knowing if you were going to get there, not knowing what the next sack would bring, in those times when you had a rest, in those times when you had some time off, what did that rest look like for you?
It was a complete multitude of things. So sometimes it would be just really resty, just absolutely nothing, sitting on the couch at home, watching the football, playing some video games, scrolling TikTok, things like that. Other ways I'd rest would just to be like, just give my brain a recharge, because, you know, during the holidays, that's the type of stuff you're doing. During the term, you have extracurriculars and things like that. The way you want to view them is you want to view them as, all right, these are things that are going to help me refresh my brain and get me, as we talked about before, complement my VCE and complement whatever else I'm doing that, you know, I'm trying to achieve in terms of scores and academics there. So, definitely like the rest, it could be a kind of more active thing that would just allow my brain to focus on something different and then focus on that again. Or it could just to be to take my focus off everything and just give myself some time to just chill. And that's super, super important. You need to give yourself time to chill. There's no shame in sitting at home and not always, but you know, once every few weeks and just resting and just doing that for yourself, because you won't know until you've actually had that day in terms of how much it actually helps you, and just being able to kind of achieve equilibrium again and just get back to normal and go about your life as normal. It's kind of like a reset button for you. So yeah, that's it varied, but yeah, that rest was super important for me at the end of the day.
Were there any points when you actually regretted having that rest?
Yeah, it would be when I'd rested, when I planned to do work. I think I never ever regretted a period of time that I wasn't at VC or wasn't doing UCAT or whatever when I'd planned for that time, or the time was fair enough. You know, family things, you know, time to play a sport that I had planned every weekend, time to have a party or something. Never ever did I feel guilty doing that, but I always felt guilty knowing that I had planned to do something at that time and I'm not doing what I planned to do.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, because what I was really trying to get at is the attitude of, oh, I'll just study like quantity over quality. let's get the volume in. Let's just study all the time because that'll be what's best for me. Well, yes, it's not good to stray from your plan. Yes, it's not good to procrastinate too much, but having actual dedicated time for you to rest, refresh, recharge, be social, hang out with your family, play a video game, scroll TikTok, whatever, is going to be part of the ensemble of year 12 and part of success as well.
Yeah.
So after all that we've said, if there was one tip that you could give to summarize your experience of year 12, one tip that you could give to a student about their approach to VCE as a whole, what would that tip be?
Stay in the moment, and you're running your own race. So everything is going to be done in the now, in the present, or maybe a few hours ahead. You're not thinking about to a SAC in 7 weeks' time. Mm-hmm. You're not thinking down to the VCE exam. You're focusing on the now, the practice question in front of you, the plan that you're going to have for the next day, the homework that you're going to do tonight. What does that look like? And then you're going to try, and as hard as you can on that, you're going to stay in the moment when you're doing that, and you're going to be so hungry to learn and hungry to get something out of it, and staying in that moment that once you're out of it, it almost feels like you forget it all. It's like a blip in your life. You were so locked into that moment. It's like, damn, I didn't even know what just happened, but I'm out and I'm pretty tired now.
Yep.
And then the second thing would be, as I said, you're running your own race. Everything has to be individualized to yourself. What one person says isn't the be all end all. And especially, with advice from possibly tutors and even advice that I've said here today, you take everything in, you take these resources in, and you take your learnings in, and you workshop with them. You see if you can take them in, and you're like, nah, that just doesn't look good. All right. And I'm more than open for people who are watching this today to go, Ethan, you are chatting out of, you're just chatting nothing, right?
Yeah.
But, it's exactly what you need to be doing. If you're able to kind of make the decision of going, yeah, that doesn't sit right with me, or, oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to try that, but I'm going to try it in my way, because you're running your own race. So be individualized with your approach. Stay focused on what works for you. Understand that you need rest as well, and maybe sometimes you don't want to do rest, and you love to study in massive 2-week blocks and have a week just chilling. Understand what works for you.
Yep.
And then once you do, you're staying in that moment. You're staying focused on what you're doing in front of you at that time. External noise out the window. You're focused on you and yourself only.
Awesome. Well, I personally certainly got a lot out of that discussion. So that's really, really good advice. As a part of your year 12, there is another thing that you briefly mentioned, which comes into it in approaching medicine, and that is the UCAT. So if I was to switch gears a bit and talk about the UCAT, which I hopefully it's not too much of a trigger word for you now that you're a tutor yourself, but can you just give a little bit of insight as to what the actual UCAT is and how it fits into medical application as well?
Yeah, so the UCAT is a aptitude test. So imagine something like you would have done possibly if you've done Mensa before, or if you've done the Lorrisby careers test, even stuff like that.
Back in year 10,
yeah. It's an aptitude test that basically you take. It's mid-year. You take the test, you get a score, and based on that score, it helps universities look at who they're going to offer interviews or even full positions to. So it's a very, very critical part for unis all around Australia, New Zealand, and even in the United Kingdom to a certain extent, to do that UCAT there. And it's mainly meant for a undergraduate pathway. So if we're looking at pathways like Melbourne and stuff, you don't have to do the UCAT because you do science and you take something called the GAMSAT, which is a whole other can of worms. But the UCAT is for undergraduate pathways. So leaving school and going straight into medical school, that's what you want to do. That's where you want to do UCAT. And it's an aptitudinal test, 4 sections there, from reading comprehension to shapes and pattern recognition to maths and everything in between. That's kind of the UCAT there. Yeah.
Okay. Great summary. And it's a bit of a step above the NAP plan, isn't it? Like reading comprehension, not quite the same sort of test.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of students, for those who've done the UCAT, you 100% know what how hard that kind of section of reading comprehension is. It's a pretty hard test all around. Yeah.
All right. And overall, how was your experience of this UCAT? And I I asked all of these UCAT questions, not specifically geared to people who are interested necessarily in medicine, but I'm just interested in hearing about how it all fits into your Year 12 journey as a whole into study, and how we can generalize that to all students who may be taking on other commitments as well in Year 12. So how was the UCAT?
Yeah, it was wasn't easy. It was not easy at all. Again, like I said, VCE wasn't easy, and UCAT just made it even more difficult. But yeah, it's just something that once you realize, medicine is something that I might want to do. And again, we talk about opening doors for ourselves. That was enough motivations for me to go, okay, well, I'm pretty sure at that point when I started to Year 12, I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I'd like to do medicine. Yeah, so I'm going to try this. I'm going to really try it. But it was definitely hard to actually, once you can't have a motivation for it, but actually doing it while you have SACs and all these other things going on, it's really hard. Yeah.
Absolutely, it is hard. I remember I was sitting week 9 of term 2, and I had just finished my methods SAC, and I was going into my spec SAC, and then I also had all of this UCAT prep to do, and it was just that moment in Year 12. I was like, oh my goodness, there's so much to do. So it certainly was a part of my Year 12, and certainly was a part of yours as well. It's this looming threat kind of in the term 2 holidays. Did you do yours in the term?
Yeah, end of term 2 holidays.
End of term 2 holidays. Okay, so you had that couple of weeks. Well, 3 weeks?
School gave me 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
We got lucky. So
generous.
3 weeks, yeah.
Okay, so 3 weeks gap where you could sort of solely focus on that. But you started your preparation, 7 months before, you said before. So you've done your UCAT prep at Contour. And what did that preparation look like? I mean, how did that fit in with your Year 12 study? Was it really different? Was your approach to that similar, different? Tell me about that.
It is a very different type of thing. And a lot of things I'm going to say is going to be generally geared towards people who are doing the UCAT and learning about that or thinking about going into it. But the UCAT's a weird test in the fact that there is content and techniques, but there's no, we talked about before, I guess, foundational learning, and then you're able to go into your mock exams. No, UCAT, you want to hop into your mock exams from day one, because you need to know that feeling of time pressure, because the biggest problem in UCAT, in my opinion, is time and balancing doing the questions correctly with the time given. So you need to get into mock exams immediately. And that was tough because you had my tuition classes, and I also needed to do as prescribed by, my tutor, Ramod, actually doing some, actual practice on the weekend or during the week that's going to look like and going to test me there. It's not just about doing it, at a slow pace. It was pretty intense, the practice I was doing, even though it may have been a low volume, but intense. I think that's the best way to describe it early on. And the volume would slowly increase as time would go on. As I got towards my exam, that the load would very much increase. I'd do more mock exams. It'd move from, once every 3 weeks to 2 weeks to 1 week to twice a week to, one every day almost, and then onto the exam basically. So, I think it was tough preparation, but I think it's a bit different to VCE. Yeah.
It comes back to what you were saying about trusting the process. Like you mentioned before that there was this point where you're going, oh my goodness, I'm actually doing really, really well at my mocks. And there's a very strong sense that if you hadn't trusted the process and, trusted Ramad in your tuition as well, and trusting that doing an exam every 2 weeks is going to help me a little bit, that you wouldn't have reached that point where you had that clarity where you went, oh, I'm actually in a really good spot. And I'm sure, and you'll say now, I hope as well, that you'd thank yourself for 7 months before you did the UCAT for just having a crack, that early crack, diving into it, much the same as you would with your SACs as well. All right, now to finish up our discussion today, Ethan, just on the UCAT point, finishing up our discussion around that, can you just give one brief tip in terms of approaching these approaches like this with the UCAT, not necessarily the test itself, but how do you approach a separate thing in Year 12, whether you're pursuing like a 8th grade AMEB for an instrument, or doing the UCAT, or maybe you're trying out for the AFL or something. What's the added approach to this other entity in amidst all that study and year 12 busyness?
Yeah. Main thing is schedule, right? Schedule and plan. The fact is that everyone knows this. People do that stuff. People, you have stories, I mean, of two guys from my school, the King brothers, both getting around 98.5 ATARs and made it to the AFL and playing in the AFL now. You can do it. It's not this impossible thing that these, kind of these absolutely insane Mensa IQ people do. Like, people do it a lot, and the reason why they do it is through planning and hard work. So you just have to schedule it. You just have to kind of, I guess, stop making excuses for yourself in a way. Stop telling yourself that you can't do it. Stop telling yourself that, all this stuff, you're waffling about. And I know imposter syndrome's real, but again, stay in that moment and be like, okay, what am I going to do about it? I'm going to make a plan. I'm going to schedule. Okay, I have footy training then. I want to make it to the AFL, but I want to be, really good and get a good ATAR as well. Okay, I have training there. What am I going to do before training? What am I going to do after training? How am I going to, make the most out of my time? It all comes down to a plan. If you go through year 12 without a plan, you're stuffed. There's no easy way to say it. So you got to have a plan. You got to be able to figure out what you're doing, when you're doing it, and as we kind of talked about before, why we're doing it, and have the direction there.
Brilliant. And that's a wonderful note to end on, Ethan. And just everything that you've said today is not only going to apply to a student who's really looking to succeed and even do what you did and go to medical school, but it's generalizable to everybody. Having a plan in VCE, pursuing your interests, running your race, controlling your controllables is just so much to walk away with. It's super beneficial for me and then also for everyone else who's watched this. So thank you so very much for coming in and having a discussion. I've enjoyed it very, very much. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.